The massive doors of the Galactic Council station opened with a hiss. Captain Sarah Chen walked through them with her head held high. Behind her, 20 members of her crew followed in perfect formation. Their blue and silver uniforms looked plain compared to the shining robes and armor of the alien species around them. This was humanity's biggest moment. First contact had happened 3 years ago, but today was different. Today, humanity would officially join the Galactic Council. Or so they hoped. The council chamber was huge. It could hold thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds. At the center, 12 tall figures sat in floating chairs that formed a circle. Each one represented a major power in the galaxy. Their faces, if they had faces at all, showed no emotion as the humans approached. Ambassador Korvax spoke first. He was from the Zelanti race, beings that looked like giant mantises made of crystal. His voice sounded like breaking glass. "The humans have come to beg for membership again," he said. Other council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Sarah kept her face calm. "We come to offer partnership," she said clearly. "Humanity has much to give the galaxy." "What could you possibly offer?" Korvax asked. His forearms moved in what looked like amusement. "Your ships use chemical rockets. Your weapons are projectile-based. You have barely left your own solar system. You are a Type 0.7 civilization at best." The words stung, but they were true. Compared to these beings who traveled faster than light and controlled energies humans could barely understand, Earth's technology was primitive. The UES Prometheus, humanity's best ship, had needed alien help just to get here. "We offer new perspectives," Sarah said. "Different ways of thinking. Our history shows that diversity makes everyone stronger." Korvax made a clicking sound. Pretty words. But the Council deals in strength, not philosophy. He waved one arm and a holographic map appeared. "You may settle in the Outer Rim territories. Sector 2847B through 2851C. Do not venture into Council space without permission." Sarah looked at the map. The sectors were at the very edge of known space, empty, worthless. It was an insult, but she had no choice. "We accept," she said quietly. 3 weeks later, the Prometheus drifted through the assigned sector. It was even worse than the map had shown. No planets worth settling, no resources worth mining, just empty space and dead rocks. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "There's a ship out there, but the readings don't make sense." Sarah moved to look at his screen. The numbers were impossible. The mass readings changed every second. The energy signature didn't match any known technology. "How far?" "About 50,000 kilometers. It's not moving." "Take us closer," Sarah ordered. Slowly. As they approached, the mysterious ship became visible on the main screen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The hull seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed and shifted. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue light. It was huge, at least 10 times bigger than the Prometheus. "It's old," said Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's chief scientist. His eyes were wide with excitement. "Very old. Maybe millions of years." "Any life signs?" Sarah asked. "None. It looks completely dead." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Prepare an away team. We're going aboard." The inside of the ancient ship was even stranger than the outside. The walls were covered in the same flowing metal, but here it formed patterns that hurt to look at. The air was stale but breathable. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. "Captain, you need to see this," Webb called from ahead. They had found what looked like a control room. In the center was a pillar of light that reached from floor to ceiling. Inside the light, symbols and images danced and swirled. "It's some kind of database," Webb said, reaching out his hand. "Don't touch it," Sarah warned, but it was too late. Webb's fingers entered the light and everything changed. The dead ship suddenly came alive. Lights blazed from every surface. A deep humming filled the air, growing louder every second. The flowing metal on the walls began to move faster, forming new patterns. "Get back to the shuttle," Sarah yelled, but the floor beneath them had started to glow. Then the universe twisted. Sarah felt like she was being pulled apart and put back together at the same time. Colors that shouldn't exist flashed before her eyes. She heard the screams of her crew mixed with sounds that no human throat could make. Time seemed to stop and race forward at once. When it finally ended, Sarah found herself on the bridge of the Prometheus. Her crew was scattered around, all unconscious but breathing. She pulled herself to the sensor station and looked at the readings. Her blood turned cold. The stars were wrong. All of them. They weren't in Sector 2847B anymore. They weren't in any sector the computer recognized. They were somewhere else entirely. Somewhere impossible. Captain Torres groaned from the floor. What happened? Before she could answer, the view screen flared to life. The ancient ship was still there, but now it was changing. The liquid metal hull was spreading out like wings. It began to wrap around the Prometheus like a living thing. Sarah ran to the weapons console, but it was dead. All their systems were shutting down one by one. The alien metal touched their hull, and she could hear it starting to merge with their ship. This was it. They were going to die here, wherever here was. Then a voice spoke, not through the speakers, but directly into their minds. Do not fear, it said. The voice was old beyond measure, but somehow kind. You have been chosen. The test begins now. What test? Sarah demanded. Who are you? We are the architects, the voice replied. We built the roads between stars before your son was born. We failed in our purpose and hid our knowledge from those who would misuse it. But we left guardians. We left tests. You have found one. We didn't mean to. We were just exploring. Intent matters not. You are here now. You will learn or you will die. But if you succeed, you will return to your galaxy with power beyond imagining. The choice is yours, Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. Sarah looked at her crew. They were all awake now, all hearing the same voice. She saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Hope. Determination. The same things that had driven humanity to reach for the stars in the first place. What do we have to do? She asked. Survive, learn, grow, become what you were meant to be. The ship will teach you. Time moves differently here. What seems like years to you will be moments in your reality, but the pain will be real. The changes will be permanent. Sarah squared her shoulders. This wasn't what they had planned, but when had anything ever gone according to plan for humanity? They adapted. They survived. They overcame. We accept your test, she said firmly. The voice seemed to smile. Then let us begin. The ancient ship completed its merger with the Prometheus. Metal flowed like water, reshaping both vessels into something new. Sarah felt the knowledge starting to flow into her mind. It was overwhelming, like trying to drink an ocean, but she held on. They all did. Back at the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Korvax received the report 2 days later. The human ship had disappeared from their sensors. No debris, no distress signal. Just gone. Typical humans, he clicked dismissively. Probably flew into an asteroid. Mark them as lost. One less primitive race to worry about. The report was filed and forgotten. The galaxy moved on. Nobody mourned the loss of the Prometheus and her crew. They had been nothing. Less than nothing. But in a place between spaces, in a pocket of reality that shouldn't exist, 20 humans were learning secrets that the galaxy had forgotten. They were changing, growing, becoming something more than they had ever dreamed possible. The test had begun. The first year was hell. Sarah Chen stood in what used to be the bridge of the Prometheus. Now she wasn't sure what to call it. The walls moved like breathing tissue. Surfaces that looked solid would suddenly become liquid when touched. The air itself seemed alive, filled with tiny lights that whispered information directly into their brains. Captain, you need to eat, Dr. Webb said, offering her a cube of something that glowed faintly green. Food was different here too. The ship produced these cubes that contained exactly what each person needed. They tasted like memories of Earth food, different for each person. Sarah's always tasted like her grandmother's soup. How long has it been, Marcus? She asked, taking the cube. By our count? 13 months. By the ship's count? About 2 minutes in real space. Time was broken here. Or maybe it was working exactly as intended. The architects had built this place as a training ground, a school for species ready to take the next step. The problem was humanity might not be ready. 3 crew members had already broken. Their minds couldn't handle the flow of information. The ship had put them in healing pods, structures that grew from the floor like giant flowers. They floated inside, suspended in glowing liquid, their faces peaceful but unchanging. Show me today's lesson, Sarah said. The wall in front of her became transparent, revealing the space outside. It wasn't normal space. Colors swirled and danced in patterns that followed rules her human brain couldn't fully grasp. But she was learning. They all were. Webb touched the wall and symbols appeared. It's about quantum-locked manufacturing today. The ability to create matter from pure energy, but locked at the quantum level so it can only exist in specific forms. English, Marcus. We can build anything, but only if we truly understand it first. Not just know about it, but understand it at the deepest level. The ship won't let us create weapons we might misuse or technology we can't control. Sarah nodded. It was frustrating but smart. The architects had clearly seen civilizations destroy themselves with power they weren't ready for. Lieutenant Torres stumbled into the room. His eyes had changed. They were still brown, but now gold flecks swirled in them like tiny galaxies. It had happened to all of them. The ship was changing them from the inside out. "Captain, I've made contact," he said breathlessly. "Contact? With who?" "The ship's AI, or maybe it's the architects themselves. I'm not sure. But it wants to talk to you." Sarah followed him to what they had started calling the core room. It was the place where the alien ship's heart connected with what remained of the Prometheus. Here the merge was most complete. You couldn't tell where human technology ended and alien began. In the center of the room, a figure made of light waited. It looked almost human, but its edges kept shifting, as if it couldn't quite decide what form to take. "Hello, Captain," it said. Its voice was the same one from that first day, ancient and kind. "You may call me teacher. Are you an architect?" "I am an echo of them, a fragment left behind to guide those who find this place." "You are doing well, better than most who attempt the test." "3 of my people are in comas," Sarah said angrily. "We're all changing into something we don't understand." "How is that doing well?" "They are not in comas. They are learning differently. Some minds work better in dreams. And the changes. Do you feel weaker or stronger?" Sarah had to admit she felt stronger. She could see spectrums of light that had been invisible before. Her thoughts were faster, clearer. Sometimes she knew things before she learned them, as if the knowledge was already there waiting to be unlocked. "Why us?" she asked. "Humans are primitive compared to the rest of the galaxy." Teacher's form flickered, and Sarah could swear it was smiling. "That is exactly why. The old races are set in their ways. They believe they know everything worth knowing. But you humans, you still have wonder. You still ask why and what if. That makes you perfect students." Over the following years, the lessons continued. The crew learned about technologies that the Galactic Council couldn't even imagine. They discovered how to manipulate gravity like clay, how to step partially outside normal space to avoid attacks, how to create shields from folded space-time itself. But more than technology, they learned philosophy. The architects hadn't failed because they lacked power. They had failed because they had too much and hadn't known how to use it wisely. They had tried to control everything to bring perfect order to the galaxy. In the end, they had realized that chaos and growth were necessary. Control was an illusion. By year 6, the ship had transformed completely. What had been a 200-meter human vessel was now 2 kilometers of flowing, adaptive technology. It could split into 12 independent sections. It could phase through solid matter. It could create temporary wormholes for instant travel. Sarah stood in the observation deck looking at her crew. They had all changed. Torres could interface with the ship directly through thought. Webb had somehow learned to see probability streams, glimpsing possible futures. The 3 who had been in healing pods had awakened with perfect memory of everything the ship had ever taught anyone. "We're not human anymore, are we?" asked Ensign Park, one of the youngest crew members. "We're human," Sarah said firmly. "Just more, enhanced. But our hearts, our values, those haven't changed. The Council won't recognize us. They'll think we're invaders. Then we'll have to prove otherwise." Teacher appeared beside them, its form more solid now, more real. "Your time here is almost complete. You have learned what you need to know. But I must warn you about something." Sarah turned to face it. "What?" The architects didn't disappear by choice. They were forced into hiding by something from outside the galaxy. Something that feeds on advanced civilizations. We left our technology hidden because we knew it would be needed when that threat returned. When will it return? Soon, within your lifetime. The signs are already there. Your Galactic Council has noticed ships disappearing at the edge of known space. They blame pirates or technical failures. They're wrong. Sarah felt a chill run through her. So we're not just learning this for ourselves. No, you're learning it to save everyone. The Council races have grown comfortable and arrogant. They won't be ready when the threat arrives. But you will be. You must be. The training intensified after that. Combat scenarios against enemies that bent reality itself. Diplomatic simulations where the wrong word meant extinction. Engineering challenges that required thinking in 11 dimensions. By year 10, they were ready. The crew had become something unprecedented. Human creativity merged with architect knowledge. Earth determination enhanced by cosmic understanding. "It's time," teacher announced one day. "You must return to your galaxy. Share what you've learned with those willing to listen. Unite them before it's too late." "Will we see you again?" Sarah asked. "I will always be with you. Part of my essence is now woven into your ship. When you need guidance, listen for my voice in the quantum foam." The space around them began to shift. The pocket dimension that had been their home for a decade started to collapse. Not in destruction, but in transformation. It was folding itself into their ship, becoming part of its very structure. Sarah looked at her crew one last time before they returned. They were scarred, changed, but unbroken. They had entered this place as explorers. They would leave as guardians. "All stations prepare for transition," she commanded. "We're going home." The ship began to glow. Space twisted, reality bent, and in a burst of impossible light they tore through the walls between dimensions, heading back to a galaxy that had no idea what was coming, or what humanity had become. The alarms at Galactic Council Station screamed in 7 different frequencies. Each one was designed for a different species' hearing range, creating a chaos of sound that meant only one thing. Something impossible was happening. Ambassador Korvax rushed to the command center, his crystalline legs clicking against the metal floor. Other council members were already there, staring at the main display screen in shock. A massive tear in space had opened just outside the station's defense perimeter. It wasn't a normal wormhole or jump point. It looked like reality itself was being ripped apart. Energy readings were off every known scale. The computers couldn't even process what they were seeing. "Deploy the fleet," ordered High Commander Thrace of the Krellian Empire. His species lived for battle, and his 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Whatever comes through, we destroy it." 300 warships moved into position, the pride of 12 different species, each one capable of destroying a moon. Their weapons powered up, creating a wall of destructive potential that nothing could survive. Then the ship emerged. It came through the tear slowly, like a predator confident in its power. 2 kilometers long, it looked like liquid starlight given form. The hull flowed and shifted, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with blue-white energy that made nearby space ripple. "By the void," whispered someone. "What is that thing?" The ship moved forward, ignoring the fleet entirely. It headed straight for the station. Every weapon locked onto it. Hundreds of targeting systems tried to get a clear reading. But the computers kept saying the same thing. "Target does not exist. Target exists in multiple dimensions. Target is everywhere and nowhere." Then came the message. It broadcast on every frequency, in every language all at once. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth Vessel Prometheus. Humanity requests recognition as a full member of the Galactic Council. We come in peace." Silence filled the command center. Then Korvax started laughing. It was a harsh, grinding sound like glass being crushed. "The humans. Those primitives who disappeared 11 years ago? This is some kind of joke." He opened a channel. "Whatever you are not human. Humans barely had fusion power. This ship is impossible. Surrender immediately for inspection or be destroyed." The response came quickly. "Ambassador Korvax, I remember you. You assigned us to the Outer Rim, called us a Type 0.7 civilization. Would you like to reassess that classification?" Something in the voice made Korvax pause. It sounded human, but there was something else there too. A depth of knowledge that shouldn't exist. "Prove you're human," he demanded. A hologram appeared in the command center. It showed Captain Sarah Chen, but she was different. Her eyes held those gold flecks that swirled like galaxies. Her skin had a faint luminescence. She looked human and more than human at the same time. Beside her stood her crew. 20 people in total, all changed in similar ways. They wore suits that seemed to be made of the same flowing material as their ship. "We left as explorers," Sarah said. "We return as something more. We found the legacy of the architects. We passed their test. And now we bring their knowledge back to help prepare for what's coming." The mention of the architects caused another wave of silence. They were legend, myth. The first civilization, who had built the original jump gates before vanishing millions of years ago. High Commander Thrace wasn't impressed. "Pretty words mean nothing. If you're truly powerful, prove it. Face my flagship in combat." Sarah's expression didn't change. "We didn't return to fight. We came to help. Then you're weak as well as deluded. Attack pattern Omega. Destroy that abomination." The Krellian flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Bloodfang, opened fire. Antimatter beams that could crack continents lashed out at the human ship. They hit nothing. The Prometheus had simply stopped existing in that spot and appeared somewhere else. Impossible, Thrace growled. No ship can jump that fast. The Bloodfang fired again. This time the Prometheus didn't move. The beams hit it directly and passed through like it wasn't there. The human ship flickered, becoming translucent, existing partially outside normal space. Please stop. Sarah's voice came through the speakers. We don't want to hurt anyone. Thrace's response was to launch his entire fighter wing. 300 small attack craft swarmed toward the Prometheus. The human ship sighed, a sound that somehow transmitted through the vacuum of space. The Prometheus began to glow. Then it split. Where there had been one ship, now there were 12. Each one identical, each one impossible. They moved like a school of fish, flowing around the fighters without firing a shot. But wherever they passed, the fighters' engines died. Their weapons went cold. They drifted helplessly in space. What are you doing to my ships? Thrace roared. We've temporarily suspended their quantum processes, came the calm reply. They'll restart in approximately 10 minutes. No permanent damage. The 12 ships merged back into one. It was a display of power beyond anything the Council had ever seen. Technology that made their best scientists look like children. Ambassador Korvax felt fear for the first time in centuries. But also anger. How dare these humans, these primitives, return with such power? It upset the entire order of things. You expect us to believe you're peaceful? He said. You could conquer the entire galaxy with that ship. Sarah's hologram looked directly at him. Yes, we could. But we won't. The architects tried that. They failed. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We learned that lesson. Then what do you want? To share, to teach, to prepare. There's a threat coming from beyond the galaxy, something that destroyed the architects. It's already taking ships at the edge of known space. The Council has noticed but doesn't understand. We do. She gestured and new holograms appeared. They showed the edge of the galaxy where stars were going dark. Not dying naturally but being consumed. Ships sent to investigate never returned. We call them the Devourers, Sarah continued. They feed on advanced technology and the species that create it. The architects fought them and lost. But they learned how to hide, how to survive. That knowledge is what we found. The command center erupted in arguments. Some believed, some didn't. The evidence was there, but accepting it meant accepting that humans had surpassed them all. A smaller voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Wylix of the Centauri, one of the newer council races. If this is true, will you teach us? Those who are willing to learn, yes, Sarah replied. But the technology comes with responsibility. It can't be used for conquest or oppression. The ship itself won't allow it. The ship decides, Korvax said mockingly. You serve a machine? We work together. The ship is alive in ways you don't understand yet. It's not about serving. It's about partnership. To demonstrate, the Prometheus changed. Its hull became transparent, revealing the impossible complexity within. Energy flowed like blood through veins of light. At its heart, human technology and architect knowledge had merged into something entirely new. This is what we offer, Sarah said. Not just technology, but evolution. A new way forward for all species. High Commander Thrace had heard enough. The Krellian Empire bows to no one. We'll take your technology and use it as we see fit. He turned to his weapons officer. All ships, full attack. Disable that vessel. 300 warships opened fire at once. The space around the Prometheus turned into a storm of destructive energy. Beams, missiles, spatial charges, everything the fleet had. When the smoke cleared, the Prometheus remained untouched. It hadn't moved. It hadn't phased. It had simply ignored the attack as if the weapons were beneath notice. Our turn, Sarah said quietly. The Prometheus pulsed once. A wave of blue energy expanded from it, washing over the entire fleet. Every ship suddenly lost power. Not damaged, not destroyed, just stopped. 300 warships drifted helplessly. We could destroy you all, Sarah said, her voice carrying to every ship. But we won't. In exactly 1 hour, your power will return. Use that time to think. The old ways are ending. The galaxy must unite, or we all fall separately. The Prometheus moved toward the station. No one could stop it. As it approached, smaller ships began emerging from its hull. Shuttles carrying the human crew. Sarah Chen herself walked into the council chamber 10 minutes later. She stood where she had stood 11 years ago, but everything was different now. "We're not conquerors," she said to the assembled council. "We're teachers, guardians. We've returned stronger not to rule but to serve. Humanity requests membership in the council, not as subjects but as equals, as partners in preparing for the storm that's coming." She placed a small device on the floor. It projected images of the architect technology, the training dimensions, the weapons that could save them all. "This is our gift. Knowledge. Power. But only for those wise enough to use it well." The council sat in stunned silence. The balance of power hadn't just shifted. It had been completely overturned, and in that silence, some began to hope. The neutral zone was where disputes were settled. A vast empty region of space, far from any inhabited worlds, monitored by thousands of sensors. Here, species could fight without risking civilians. Here, power was proven. 3 days after humanity's return, the entire Galactic Council had gathered to watch. Ships from every member species formed a massive sphere. Their sensors focused on the center where 2 vessels faced each other. On one side, the Krellian super dreadnought Extinction's Edge, 5 kilometers long, armed with weapons that had never known defeat. It had conquered 17 systems for the Empire. Its captain, Warlord Krax, had never lost a battle. On the other side, the transformed Prometheus, still that impossible flowing shape, still defying every law of physics the Council knew. High Commander Thrace spoke from his flagship. "The terms are simple. Combat until one ship yields or is destroyed. No restrictions. If the humans win, they gain full Council membership. If they lose, they surrender their technology and submit to Council authority." Sarah Chen's voice came through the speakers. "We accept, but with one modification. When we win, we'll also demonstrate why this technology must be shared carefully." "Agreed," Thrace laughed. "Your arrogance will be your downfall." "Agreed." The countdown began. 10 seconds to give both ships time to power up their systems. The Extinction's Edge glowed with barely contained energy. Its hull crackled with defensive shields layered 12 deep. Missile pods opened like hungry mouths. Beam weapons swiveled to track. The Prometheus did nothing visible. It simply floated there, serene as deep space. "Begin," Thrace commanded. Warlord Krax didn't hesitate. Every weapon on the Extinction's Edge fired at once. Antimatter beams thick as buildings lashed out. Quantum torpedoes that could destabilize matter itself streaked through space. Gravity bombs that created tiny black holes were launched in perfect patterns. The Prometheus disappeared, not jumped, not cloaked. It simply stopped being where the weapons were aimed. It reappeared behind the dreadnought, completely unharmed. "Impossible," Krax snarled. "No ship can move that fast." He spun his vessel around, an impressive feat for something so massive. But the Prometheus was gone again. This time it appeared above them, then below, then in 12 places at once, each image perfect and solid. "Which one is real?" his tactical officer asked, panic creeping into his voice. "All of them." Sarah's calm voice answered over their bridge speakers. "And none of them." The 12 ships suddenly became one again, directly in front of the Extinction's Edge. Krax fired everything again. This time the Prometheus didn't move. The weapons hit it directly and passed through like it was made of smoke. The human ship had phased, existing partially outside normal space-time. The attacks that should have vaporized it instead hit nothing but twisted air. "Now," Sarah said, "let us show you what these weapons can really do." The Prometheus finally acted. A beam of light, impossibly thin, shot from its hull. It hit the Extinction's Edge and simply turned off its engines. Not destroyed them, not damaged them. The quantum processes that allowed them to function were suspended. Another beam disabled their weapons. Another took their shields. In seconds, the most powerful warship in known space was helpless. "How?" Krax demanded. "What kind of weapon is this?" "It's not a weapon," Dr. Webb's voice joined the channel. "It's a teaching tool. We're showing you the difference between destruction and control. Your philosophy is to break what opposes you. Ours is to understand it, then redirect it." The Prometheus moved closer to the drifting dreadnought. As the Council watched in awe, the human ship began to change. Its hull flowed like water, extending tendrils that wrapped around the Extinction's Edge. Not crushing it, but cradling it. "What are you doing?" Krax shouted. "Fixing your ship," Sarah replied, "but also improving it." Where the Prometheus touched the dreadnought, the metal began to change. It became smoother, stronger. Energy flowed more efficiently. In minutes, systems that had taken the Krellians centuries to develop were enhanced beyond recognition. Then the Prometheus let go and moved away. The Extinction's Edge powered back up, but now its readings were completely different. It was still a Krellian ship, but it was also more. Your engines are now 40% more efficient, Sarah explained. Your shields can adapt to attacks, learning and improving. Your weapons, well, you'll find they can now stun as well as destroy. The choice is yours. Krax tested the systems, his disbelief growing with each reading. Everything the humans said was true. His ship was better in every way. Why? He asked. Why help an enemy? Because you're not our enemy, Sarah said. You're just someone who doesn't understand yet. Let me show you why this matters. The Prometheus split again, but this time into more than 12 parts. It became 100 smaller ships, each one dancing through space in perfect synchronization. They formed patterns that were beautiful and impossible. They merged and split in ways that hurt to watch. Then they reformed and projected a hologram that everyone could see. It showed the edge of the galaxy where stars were dying. This was recorded last week, Sarah said. Watch. A Zelanti exploration vessel appeared in the image, investigating the dark zone. Something emerged from the darkness. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even properly physical. It was like space itself had become hungry. It wrapped around the exploration vessel, and in seconds the ship was gone. Not destroyed, consumed, absorbed. The Devourers, Sarah continued. They exist partially in higher dimensions. Normal weapons can't touch them. Normal shields can't stop them. But the technology we're offering can, the Prometheus demonstrated. It projected a field that twisted space itself, creating a barrier that existed in multiple dimensions at once. It fired weapons that didn't just destroy, but unraveled the very concept of the target. This is beyond us, someone whispered. No, Sarah said firmly. It's beyond you now. But you can learn. You must learn. Because they're coming and they're hungry. Our estimates say we have perhaps 3 years before they reach inhabited space. Ambassador Ilix of the Centauri spoke up. Show us more. Show us everything. The Prometheus obliged. For the next hour, it performed feats that destroyed everything the Council thought they knew about physics. It created temporary wormholes, allowing instant transportation. It generated shields from folded time, making attacks hit yesterday instead of now. It produced matter from pure energy, building a small station in minutes. But the most impressive demonstration was the last one. The architects failed because they tried to do everything alone, Sarah said. They thought they were gods. We know we're not. We're just people who found teachers. Let us be teachers in turn. The Prometheus extended tendrils again, but this time toward the watching fleet. It touched one ship from each species. Just a gentle contact lasting seconds. But in those seconds, each ship received a gift. A small piece of architect technology, tailored to their species' strengths. The Zelanti received enhanced sensors that could see through dimensions. The Centauri got communication systems that worked instantly across any distance. The Krellians were given adaptive armor that learned from each hit. These are seeds, Sarah explained. Starting points. If you choose to learn, to grow, to work together, you can develop them into so much more. But if you try to use them for conquest, they'll stop working. The technology itself will reject you. High Commander Thrace had been silent throughout the demonstration. Now he spoke, his voice subdued. You could rule us all.
Why don't you?
Because rulers create subjects, Sarah replied. Teachers create equals, and we're going to need equals for what's coming. She projected one final image. It showed thousands of devourer entities massing at the galaxy's edge. It showed projections of their advance. It showed the death of everything if they weren't stopped. Alone, humanity can't stop this. Alone, neither can you. But together we might have a chance. The demonstration was over. The Prometheus hung in space, waiting. The entire council was silent, processing what they'd seen. Finally, Ambassador Korvac spoke. His crystalline form flickered with emotion. I was wrong. Humanity isn't type 0.7. I'm not even sure what type you are now. Something new. Something necessary. He paused, and his next words changed everything. I vote for full council membership for humanity, and I volunteer the Zelanti to be their first students. One by one, other voices joined in. Not all of them. Some species were too proud, too afraid, or too suspicious. but most understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Sarah smiled. It was a start. 6 months had passed since the demonstration. The Galactic Council Station had been transformed. Where once there were separate sections for each species, now there were mixed zones where different races worked side by side. At the center, a new wing had been built. The Academy, where humanity taught the secrets of the architects. Sarah Chen stood in the main training hall, watching 40 students from 12 different species struggling with their first lesson. They were trying to interface with small pieces of architect technology, cubes that glowed with soft light. "Don't force it," she said patiently. "The technology responds to understanding, not command. Think of it as a conversation, not a conquest." A young Centauri raised her hand. "Captain Chen, my cube keeps showing me images of my home. Why?" "Because that's what you're thinking about," Sarah replied. "The technology reads intention and emotion as much as conscious thought. You're homesick. Acknowledge it, accept it, then focus on the task." Not everyone had accepted the new reality. 3 species had left the council entirely, refusing to believe humanity's warnings about the devourers. They thought it was all a trick, a way for humans to gain control. They learned better when the darkness reached them. The attack came without warning. The Vorthan Empire, one of the species that had rejected humanity's offer, sent a desperate distress call. Their border colonies were under attack by something that couldn't exist. Sarah took the Prometheus and 3 volunteer ships from other species. They arrived to find Nightmare made real. The devourer entity was massive, a writhing mass of dark energy that existed in 7 dimensions at once. It had wrapped itself around a Vorthan colony ship, slowly dissolving it into nothing. 10,000 souls being erased from existence. "All ships, dimensional shields up," Sarah commanded. "Remember your training. These things feed on energy, so don't give them any. Use the void weapons." The void weapons were humanity's gift to those who had accepted their teaching. They didn't add energy to a target but removed it, creating zones of absolute nothing that even the devourers couldn't cross. The battle was brutal. The devourer split into dozens of smaller entities, each one attacking from angles that normal space shouldn't allow. One of the volunteer ships, a Zelanti cruiser, got caught. Sarah watched in horror as it began to dissolve. "No," she said firmly. "Not today." The Prometheus moved like lightning. It split into 12 parts surrounding the Zelanti ship. Together they created a dimensional bubble, cutting it off from the devourer's touch. The entity recoiled, making a sound like reality screaming. "Now," Sarah ordered. Converging void strike, all ships fired at once. Beams of pure nothingness converged on the devourer. It tried to flee into higher dimensions, but the weapons followed. For the first time, humanity's allies saw a devourer die. It collapsed in on itself, taking a small piece of space-time with it. The Vorthan commander appeared on screen, his 6 eyes wide with shock. "How? We fired everything we had. Nothing worked. Because you were fighting in 3 dimensions against something that exists in 7, Sarah explained. "Will you accept our help now?" Pride was hard to swallow, but extinction was harder. The Vorthans agreed. Back at the council station, changes were accelerating. The academy had grown from 40 students to 4,000. Dr. Webb had made a breakthrough, finding a way to mass-produce simple architect tools. Not weapons, but healing devices, terraforming equipment, and universal translators that worked on levels beyond language. But not everyone was happy with humanity's rise. High Commander Thrace stood before a secret gathering of Krellian war chiefs. "The humans make us weak," he said. "They teach us to talk when we should fight, to understand when we should conquer. This is not the Krellian way." "But their weapons," one chief argued. "You've seen what they can do." "Yes, and I've learned their weakness. The technology won't work for conquest, they say. But what if we don't use their technology? What if we use our own, enhanced by what we've learned?" It was rebellion, and Sarah saw it coming. The Prometheus's enhanced sensors, combined with her growing understanding of quantum probability, let her glimpse possible futures. In most of them, Thrace caused a civil war that weakened the galaxy just when unity was needed most. She decided to confront him directly. Sarah arrived at the Krellian flagship alone, unarmed. Thrace met her in his combat arena, a circular chamber where disputes were settled by blood. "I know what you're planning," she said simply. Then you know I can't be stopped. My people follow strength, not words. Then show them strength, Sarah said. Fight me, here, now, no weapons, no technology. If you win, I'll give you unrestricted access to everything we know. If I win, you stop your rebellion and truly join us, Thrace laughed. The Krellians were 2 meters tall, four-armed, and bred for war. Humans were small, soft, weak. You'll die. Maybe, Sarah said. But I don't think so. The fight was short. Thrace charged, using his forearms to attack from multiple angles. Sarah didn't try to match his strength. Instead, she moved like water, redirecting his force using his power against him. It was a technique learned not from the architects but from ancient Earth. Aikido, the way of harmony. In 30 seconds, Thrace was on the ground. One of his own arms twisted behind him, Sarah's knee on his back. Strength isn't just muscle, she said quietly. It's knowing when to fight and when to build. Your people are warriors, Thrace. We need warriors, but we need warriors who fight for something, not just against everything. She led him up. Around them, Krellian chiefs watched in stunned silence. Their greatest fighter defeated by a human half his size. Thrace stood slowly, his 4 eyes studying Sarah with new respect. Teach me, he said. Teach us. Not just the weapons, but this way of thinking. From that day, the Krellians became humanity's strongest allies. The years passed quickly. The Academy grew into a network spanning the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia worked together, united by a common threat and a common hope. The technology spread. Carefully controlled but steadily advancing, Earth itself was transformed. Once a small world on the edge of nothing, it became a pilgrimage site. Beings from across the galaxy came to walk where humanity had started, to understand how a species that had barely reached its own moon had become teachers to the stars. The Prometheus was no longer alone. 12 ships of similar design had been built, each one a fusion of human engineering and architect knowledge. They formed the Guardian Fleet, protectors of the galaxy. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, now bearing the title First Guardian. Webb was beside her, his eyes showing visions of probable futures. Torres was at navigation, his mind linked directly to the ship. The crew that had left Earth as explorers had become something legend. Long-range sensors are picking up something, Torres said. It's big, Captain. Really big. The main screen activated, showing the edge of the galaxy. The darkness was moving. Not one devourer, not a dozen, but thousands. A wave of hunger that would consume everything in its path. Send the signal, Sarah commanded. All ships, all species. This is it. Within hours, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled. 50,000 ships from 90 species. All equipped with weapons that could fight in dimensions beyond counting. At the center, the 12 Guardian ships formed a spearhead. Ambassador Korvax, now wearing armor that merged Zelanti crystal with architect metal, appeared on the screen. The Council votes to follow your lead, First Guardian. Tell us how to save our galaxy. Sarah looked at the approaching darkness and smiled. Not a happy smile, but a determined one. Together, she said. We do this together or not at all. All species, all ships, one voice. Show them that this galaxy is protected. Show them that we are ready. The fleet moved as one, a unified force heading toward the darkness. The battle would be terrible. Many would die, but they would fight with weapons beyond the Devourer's understanding, with unity beyond their comprehension. As the first weapons fired, creating a wall of light against the darkness, Sarah heard a familiar voice, Teacher, speaking from within the ship itself. You have done well, Captain Chen. The architects would be proud. You have succeeded where we failed. You have united them. We're not done yet, Sarah replied. No, Teacher agreed, but you have begun, and in the end, that is all any civilization can do. Begin and hope others will continue. The battle raged for days. Ships fell, but others took their place. The darkness pushed forward, but the light pushed back. And slowly, incredibly, impossibly, the Devourers began to retreat. They had never encountered resistance like this, never faced prey that had become predators. Never found a galaxy that stood as one. When the last devourer fled back into the void between galaxies, a cheer went up from 50,000 ships in 100 different languages. But they all meant the same thing. We survived. We won. We are one. In the aftermath, as damaged ships were repaired and the dead were mourned, a new government was formed. Not a council where species were ranked by power, but a true federation where all voices were equal. Humanity was offered leadership but declined. "We're teachers," Sarah said at the founding ceremony. "Guardians when needed, but not rulers. Never rulers. The galaxy belongs to all of us. The Prometheus still patrols the borders, watching for threats from beyond.